Hi there, Sandra here from the Schwowin's Nest. Thanks for joining me today. DIY number one is using this wooden house and a piece of MDF board. I'm going to trace the house on top of the MDF board because I want to create a front for the house. I'm going to use my utility knife to just score the MDF and eventually it's going to go through. I do like to use my self-healing cutting mat, which really allows me to just dig right through that MDF and score it all the way through. I'm also going to add some windows, so I'm just using my ruler and marking off where I want the windows to be, and then again I will take my utility knife and score them all the way through and pop them off. I'm going to use some of these coffee stir sticks, which are really skinny and thin popsicle sticks, and I've cut them out to make some windowsills and a frame around the door. I'm just going to hot glue all of these in place. I've now flipped the house over and I'm using the same stir sticks to create some window panes. I'm just going to hot glue them in place and they're not any specific length, just long enough so I can glue them on either side. For the one that goes across, you're going to need to just hold it in place a little bit longer so the hot glue can set because it's going to be bending on top of the first one. I made a little window for the door and I took a popsicle stick, cut it in half lengthwise so I would have two smaller little pieces, and that will create a window pane right within the door. Now it's time to just use some hot glue and glue the wood piece right on top of the wood frame house. I'm just using hot glue. I'm just going to put some on the top and a bit down the sides, and then I'll run some hot glue at the bottom too. Now it's time to make the roof. I've done this a couple of times on my channel using popsicle sticks of different sizes. I'm using jumbo popsicle sticks for this roof because it's a pretty large house. I'm going to mark off what length I need and use my miter shears to go ahead and trim a whole bunch of them all at once so I can get to gluing really quick. I'm going to start at the bottom first. So I have the house flipped right side up so you can see it. I'm working with it upside down. And I'm going to start at the bottom and just glue on my first piece of roof. Then I'm going to use the hot glue and add it to the roof again, but making sure that the popsicle sticks overlap by about half. The roof is completely finished, and I wanted to add something to the front of the house, make sort of like a front porch or a front yard. So I'm just measuring out a piece of this MDF, and that will be just scored again, and I'll glue that to the front of the house. Using folk art home decor chalk paint in the color white, I'm going to give the sides of the house one or two coats. I want this to look really nice and bright. I don't want any of the wood showing through, so it ends up taking about a coat and a half. I just had to touch up some of the areas where some of the wood was showing through. I decided to paint the roof black and I'm using home decor chalk paint in the color Rich Black. And I'm just going to go ahead and do all of the roof. I'm also going to do underneath the roof and make sure that all of the wood pieces are nicely covered. I'm going to use the same color black with a smaller brush and do all of the windowsills and the frame around the door. I also decided to paint that little additional piece black as well. I'm going to paint the house with my new favorite gray color, which is Folk Art Parisian Gray. It's a really pretty light gray. And I'm also going to do the window panes gray too. I didn't want the windows to be see-through because I'm going to be adding some lights to the back of the house. So I'm using this plastic poster board that I picked up at Michael's. It's $3 for a big sheet the size of a poster board. I use this for my Cricut Joy when I'm creating reusable stencils. So I'm going to just cut out some squares and then hot glue them right into the center of the window pane on the back of the house. I wanted to add a little bit of a grass look to the front of the house, so that's why I have this little ledge attached to it. I'm using some Mod Podge and I'm going to use green reindeer moss and I'm just going to push it down as best I can. I did find that I had to use some hot glue just to make sure that everything stayed put. So in hindsight, just use the hot glue. Just make sure you don't burn your fingers. I'm adding a little bit more reindeer moss with the hot glue, and I'm using my little makeup spatula here to make sure that I don't burn my fingers. To give the house a wintry effect, I'm putting a good amount of Mod Podge right on top of the reindeer moss. And then I'm going to just pour on some Epsom salt. I really like using Epsom salt for my wintry looks because it's just so nice and crystally and icy looking. The snow that you could get at Christmas time is just plastic. It's shredded snow, but it's like literally little pieces of plastic. I don't like that. I like the Epsom salt better, and Epsom salt is available year round. So you'll be able to find it at the Dollar Tree or Dollarama right now. I used the same technique for the roof. I dripped on some Mod Podge and then put the Epsom salts right on top. I'm going to do the same thing for the windowsills here, and it's okay if you have a little bit of Mod Podge that drips down a little bit because the Epsom salt will catch on that and it'll look really cute. I like to hold my project over a bowl so it can catch any of the extra Epsom salt. I hate having a huge mess all over my craft table. I did get a mess anyway, but at least I did my best to kind of contain it. I have some leftover white picket fence that was a purchase from Michael's last year, and it was quite a bit in there. So I've been using it for a few different projects, and I'm just going to hot glue that right onto that ledge that I added at the bottom. I only had enough fence to go part way around the back of the house, but that's okay. It will allow me to glue it on a little bit better so the front portion doesn't move. The last couple of details that I wanted to add was a little attic vent at the very top of the house. And one of those is just a circle with some lines going through it. So I just did that freehand by tracing a little cup. And then I also created some shiplap lines all around the sides of the house. It really makes it look like a farmhouse. I didn't measure out the lines, I just decided to eyeball it, and I'm just using a ruler and my Sharpie fine point pen. My second DIY is using this little laundry sign that I picked up at the Dollar Tree. I'm just going to pop out the back. It just is held together with a few little nails, and I'm just going to push those out and then remove the laundry words. I love using this little razor tool from the Dollar Tree. It's a really handy tool and it gets right underneath things and pops them off without creating too much damage. Since I'm going to be painting this, I just wanted to sand down these little holes where the nails were because I'm also going to be hot gluing this back into the frame and I wanted it to fit in properly. I'm using the rich black color again from Folk Art. It is a chalk paint, and I really am falling in love with this line of chalk paints. They go on so well, so nice and smooth, and usually one coat will do the trick. This is just a plastic frame. It is a faux wood grain on top of it, but I wanted it to have just a little bit of a deeper color. So I'm taking my chip brush and a little bit of the same black paint, and I'm just going to go around and dry brush it and give it a little bit more depth. I've got this cute little snowflake that came in a pack of a bunch of other snowflakes and a couple of other items as well. I'm just going to give it a coat of the white chalk paint. Now, this was a little tricky. There's a lot of nooks and crannies in these little snowflakes, and it took me a little while to get all of it white. So I think It might have been better to just spray paint it, but I did it this way. So take it into consideration that you might want to try spray painting this instead of using your brush because there's a lot of edges that need to get painted. Now, I know some of you like watching me when I do my freehand lettering, but I am taking advantage of my Cricut and I designed a little decal in white that says "Come in and cozy up." So I'm just going to attach that to the sign. Next, I'm going to hot glue the snowflake right next to the words and then get that sign put back into the frame using hot glue in each of the four corners. I hope you enjoyed these two DIY projects that I did today. If you did, I'd love for you to stick around. Hit that subscribe button. Those two black arrows will show you exactly where to click. Thank you so much for watching to the end. I really appreciate your support. See you in the next one.